3-9 in them. We won 1 out of 7 Quadrant 1 games and 2 out of 3 Quadrant 2 games. That's not going to happen this year. Not that we won't have that type of record, which we could, but I think we're better than that. But we're not going to only have 12 of those games. This year, the conference is way, way better. It's the second best conference in the nation. There are, 7 or 8 teams in the top 50. We play 12 teams, which are in the top 70 right now, and an away game against a top 70 team is a Quadrant 1 game. So we're going to get so many more chances at that, and the committee really doesn't penalize teams for losing Quadrant 1 games that much, but they just need you to win some of them. So I said Oklahoma, which is the classic example of a team that shouldn't have gone in because they sucked in conference play and lost a ton of Quad 1 games and all that stuff, but they played them and won a few of them. They lost 14 games last year. So what we did is we made our schedule like them, and that means that maybe you're going to lose 10, 13, 12 games, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get into the tournament. And people need to realize that this was one of 20 opportunities to play a Quadrant 1 or 2 game, and it's more about projecting how well the team will do in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. My concern is if we can actually win on the road, not about the teams we're winning or playing. So
yeah, that's definitely so. Yeah, we can get into that. So the problem for me is you can say it was a bad shooting night, which I kind of did, but the problem is we always have a bad shooting night when we're on the road. We went, I'm doing the math in my head here, so we won 23 games last year. We played, I think, 33, and 18 of those were at home. We won 17. We went 17-1. We lost only to Kansas. So that means we won 6 out of 15 games on the road last year, and that's just not going to cut it.
Yeah, I think you have to expect you're going to shoot worse when you're not at home, and I think this team needs to make the decision that they're going to it's going to not be pretty, and they're going to have to play a lot more physical and scrappy, really attack the basket and play harder defense and stuff, and I feel like that's a decision they have to make and they haven't necessarily made. And that's a bigger thing than just, we'll shoot better next time, because I don't really believe they will, because it's always harder to shoot not on your home floor.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Even the tournament team that we had along back in 2013 or something, they won almost all their home games and lost almost all their away games. Yeah. They won that one against Michigan State, but they probably wouldn't have had a ton of Quadrant 1 wins or whatever when that happened either. The Big Ten was a little better that year. But we play Clemson on next Monday, sometime next week, and they're almost a top 25 team. That's on the road. I think they're at least top 50. And then we play Oklahoma State, who is at least a Big 12 team, pretty solid, at a neutral place in South Dakota, which will be neutral but probably mostly dominated by Husker fans. So how much emphasis do you put on those 2 games, even though we're going to have a lot of tough conference opponents to get good wins against?
I think the emphasis I put on is not necessarily the games themselves, but how we perform, just this kind of project how we will perform later in the future, I guess, continuing on. So losing them isn't as bad in the sense of our record or chances of making the tournament, but determining if we're going to be able to win games on the road as a whole.
Yeah, it's just really hard to know what to do. I don't know what you would do as a coach to make your guys do better on the road. Maybe not practice in the Hendricks or PBA all the time. I don't know why does that affect your shooting so much, so consistently over tons of 7 years? Is it something Miles is doing that all of a sudden we suck on the road?
Yeah, I don't know.
So let's talk. Maybe we can talk a little bit about Miles. Some people said that he got outcoached in the game. Did you see that?
One thing where I think he got out. I don't know if it's really outcoached. I feel like it's
I
just
don't
kind of
ever
a
like that
simple thing.
word. Because you coach in practice most of the time.
Yeah,
I mean there are some things where you call them plays and stuff.
Yeah,
but
late game decisions, those type of things. But when we were running man-to-man defense on inbounds plays, I mean, that was just stupid. They got open shots, wide open, mid-range, open threes, open layups every single time we ran man on inbounds. It's just like kind of thought it was common knowledge to run a zone out of an inbounds play, especially when there's like only a few seconds left on the shot clock. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, and one thing, this is obviously more of a practice thing. So we always would go to the practices with Doc Sadler. They would just have like open practices instead of a scrimmage or something. So our dad could show us like how much of a defensive stance they get into. Wow, we're watching a replay of the game. Palmer just took one of those terrible shots. But he always noticed that they would practice and they would go and take their 3-point shot, and they would be on the 3-point line and they would have their foot out of bounds, and then they would step in and shoot it. And they would never say anything. They would have like professional refs there to go and ref the practice, but they would never call that, or the coaches never call that, or they'd catch the ball on the 3-point line and they'd take a bunch of steps, and like they do in Europe where they do the first step and it doesn't count as a travel, and then they go out in a game and sure enough they're stepping out of bounds, they're traveling all over, and that happened to us the whole time today. And it just means the coaches must never say anything, and it just seems obvious. Well, like, yeah, they're doing it in practice, they're gonna go do it in a game.
Yeah, it's just like you get in the habit of standing a few inches out of bounds, or I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
So Roby has obviously, he has struggled in the last few games just because he hasn't been shooting a lot, but in this game it seemed like we actually tried to go put the offense through him, and
but they didn't do it the right way at all. Like, they were just, when they decided to try and use Roby as an offensive threat, they just gave him the ball at the top of the key as a 6'9" guy.
Well, they didn't though.
So a lot of the times,
lot of the time when he got the ball, they were trying to throw it into him at the post, and he actually did get some fouls called on him, or not on him, on his man when they were trying to throw it in. But a lot of the time he got it into the post, and a few times he made a layup. But a lot of the time he would try to dribble around, and then he kind of lost the ball.
Well, I don't think he should be doing that much dribbling.
Well, so how would you
either on a pick and roll, or him really getting a guy sealed down low and running him off a screen to get a switch so he can seal us like a guard.
I mean, that's kind of what they tried to do in this game. Maybe they didn't run a screen for him or something, which they do need to do. I mean, because
he's not like he can defend bigger posts, but he's not offensively talented enough on the block to post up somebody necessarily even his size or bigger and score off that.
Yeah.
He's better getting a pass full stride and being able to use his athleticism, or if he has a smaller guy, he can score over them. But
yeah, the other thing that I thought, they shouldn't be throwing it to him in the post against a super good defensive team, because one, they can block it and stop him from getting it, but then also when he's in the post, it's really hard for him to make a move because they're going to steal it, they're going to cause a turnover from him, and that's when you need your guys like Glenn or Thomas Allen, or it should be Palmer, but he's already taken too many, to get some of those, maybe not the highest percentage shots, but if it's going to be a low scoring game, you can still take lower percentage shots and win the game, because you don't have to score as many points to win. So that's better than getting turnovers, because you're at least getting a bad shot instead of getting turnovers.
Are you saying inside out?
No, I'm saying Wait, what do you mean by inside out?
Well, like you're saying...
causing turnovers?
No, you just said, like, he gets the ball down low, and then you said something about other people taking shots. Like, you didn't explain. Like, are you saying...
I don't need them to be passing him the ball down low against a great defensive team, because I'd rather see them maybe do something that doesn't cause a turnover.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people might disagree with me on that, but that's kind of my take on it. One of the things, I'm just going through my tweets from the game to remember stuff to talk about. I thought that zone did not work against this team at all. They were way too disciplined. They didn't have turnovers. They had like one 10-second call or something, which was really dumb. But once we got into the half court, the 1-3-1 did not work.
Yeah, I didn't like them going to that. I mean, I guess, like, you could try it, but, I mean, once it wasn't clearly wasn't working, that they should have stopped sooner than they did.
Yeah, and obviously the inbounds plays is different, but it just, every time they got a wide open three or they could just dribble and get a wide open jump shot, they'd overhelp. I don't know, it just didn't seem to be working for me.
They actually passed the ball like more than 3 times per possession. That's what you have to do against a zone. Either you have a good shooting team where you can shoot in the gaps, or if you just swing the ball 4 or 5 times, then you can always get a wide open layup
without turning the ball over.
Yeah.
The key, so many times, the key to the offense is being able to pass without turning the ball over. And I guess that's where you get assist to turnover ratio. But when you watch enough, it's just like turnovers matter so much. Especially, I mean, we watch the Sixers, who are by far the highest turnovers in the league. But yeah, I think we still have a lot of basketball to go, and we'll be able to see the team this Saturday. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I don't really think so. I think we're fine. We're all right.
Yeah. Maybe not making the top 25 this week. Kind of disappointing, but we're going to be okay. Maybe I'll post another one about, I can't remember what their name is, Western Illinois. Whoever we play next, maybe not, though. We don't have predictions, but we don't really know about the team.
Yeah.
And just like Nebraska basketball overall, until we get that first tournament win, we are
still risky roads.
This is officially the end of the podcast, but if you would like to hear a rant I did for 4 minutes on why Chargers should not exist, go ahead and keep listening. If you like it, again, follow us on Twitter or Instagram. Let me know, and I'll do some more that I'll post actually in the middle of the episode. Thank you, guys.
That the Knicks haven't won since 1973.
Thank you. I'll take it from here. Charges should not be a thing. Charges are the worst referee call in basketball. And here's a bunch of reasons, which I will make up off the top of my head, that I have thought about forever. Why? 1, there is no reason for a charge. Charges are useless. We don't need them. Every single charge can be replaced by somebody actually using their athletic gifts that God gave them to jump. Yes, I know, they're basketball players. They can jump in the air and try to block a shot. Yes, that's actually how defense is played. You go and try to stop the ball from going into the basket. 2, why do we want to watch people stand on the floor? Why are we paying people? College, we are not paying them, but millions of dollars in the NBA and a bunch of scholarships to watch them stand there and fall over. Nobody wants to see that. We want to see blocks. We want to see people go over them and dunk it on them. We want to see fouls. We don't want to see people standing there. 3, it is the most difficult call to ref in all of basketball. The most controversial calls are all block charge calls. Why would we do that to ourselves? Obviously, the refs are going to have a ton of trouble doing this because there's no difference. There's the tiny sliver between